वीडियो बनानी में मेहनत ही हमारी चैनल को सब्सक्राइब करें. Jax's revenge domain. Rain hammered the Seattle port like bullets hitting concrete. The drops came down so hard I had to squint just to see the crane lights blinking through the storm. I sat in my truck, engine off, letting the noise fill the silence. My phone lit up again. 23 missed calls from the office, all in the last 2 hours. I stared at those numbers and couldn't help but smile because I knew exactly what was happening back there. And it was about time. My name is Lucas Morrison. I'm 51 years old, and I've been running operations at Puget Sound Port for 15 years. Before that, I spent 8 years in the Marines, learned how to lead people and get things done right after my wife Sarah died in that car accident 5 years ago. It's just been me and my 17-year-old son, Ryan. This job has been everything to us. But to understand why I'm sitting here watching my phone blow up while my co-workers panic, I need to go back 3 days to the meeting that changed everything. The conference room on the second floor had that stale air that comes from too many bad decisions made behind closed doors. I walked in expecting the usual annual review. After 15 years, I figured I'd earned the operations director position that opened up when Bill retired. My track record spoke for itself. 0 major accidents on my watch, efficiency ratings consistently above target, and respect from every worker on the floor. Preston Williams sat at the head of the table. New guy brought in 6 months ago to modernize operations. The kind of manager who uses words like synergy and paradigm shift in every sentence. Next to him was his son Jordan, 26 years old, fresh MBA from some prestigious school, designer suit that probably costs more than most of my guys made in a week. And that look kids get when they think they know everything about nothing. Preston didn't waste time with small talk. Lucas, I've reviewed your performance. You're solid, reliable, but I don't think you meet the qualifications for the director position. The words hit like a sucker punch after 15 years of making sure this place ran like clockwork, keeping workers safe, handling every crisis that came through those doors. I felt that familiar tightness in my chest. The same feeling I got in Kandahar when the CO told us our supply convoy was delayed, and we'd have to make do with what we had. What qualifications am I missing? I asked, keeping my voice steady. Military training teaches you not to let emotions drive the conversation. We need fresh thinking, innovation. Jordan here has some exciting ideas about streamlining operations, cutting redundancies. Preston smiled like he was doing me a favor. He'll be taking the director position. Starting salary will be 20% above your current rate, but don't worry, you'll be working closely with him. Your experience will be valuable in helping him implement changes. I looked at Jordan. Kid was nodding like at a dashboard bobblehead, probably calculating how good this would look on his resume. Meanwhile, I'm thinking about Ryan's college applications sitting on my kitchen table, the tuition bills coming next year, the promotion I'd been counting on to help us get through without draining my retirement savings. What kind of streamlining? I asked. Jordan leaned forward, eager to show off. Well, we've identified several redundancies in the current safety protocols. Too many checkpoints, too much documentation. We can cut inspection times by 30% and increase throughput significantly. I felt my jaw tighten. This kid was talking about cutting safety protocols like he was trimming fat from a budget spreadsheet. These weren't numbers on a screen. They were procedures that kept people from getting crushed by 40-ton containers or electrocuted by crane systems. Those redundancies, I said slowly. They exist because this is dangerous work. Every checkpoint catches something the previous one might have missed. That's old-school thinking, Jordan replied, with the confidence only someone who'd never seen a workplace accident could have. Modern efficiency standards show that streamlined processes actually increase safety by reducing complexity. I looked at Preston. You're putting someone in charge of operations who's never worked a day on the floor. Jordan has an MBA from Northwestern and 2 years of consulting experience with operational optimization. He brings exactly the kind of fresh perspective we need. That's when I understood what was really happening. This wasn't about qualifications or fresh thinking. This was about Preston setting his kid up with a cushy management position, and I was supposed to do the actual work while Jordan took the credit and the salary. But here's what they didn't know about me. Marines don't argue when the situation is clear. We adapt, we observe, and when the time is right, we act. I stood up, gave them both a polite nod. Well then, I guess we'll see how those innovations work out. I walked out before Preston could launch into his speech about exciting new directions and collaborative leadership opportunities. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with Ryan doing his homework across from me. College brochures spread between us. Washington State, University of Oregon, Seattle University, all expensive, all requiring the kind of financial commitment that my current salary could barely handle, let alone support. Dad, you okay? You look like someone stole your truck, Ryan said, looking up from his calculus homework. Just thinking about work stuff, son. The promotion thing? Smart kid. I'd mentioned it a few weeks ago when the position opened up. Yeah, that didn't get it. Nope. Went to someone else. Ryan set down his pencil. Someone with more experience. I almost laughed. Someone with an MBA and a famous last name. That's garbage, Dad. You know that port better than anyone. Out of the mouths of teenagers. Sometimes knowing how to do the job isn't enough, Ryan. Sometimes it's about who you know. So, what are you going to do? That was the question, wasn't it? What was I going to do? I'd spent 15 years being the guy everyone came to when things went wrong. The one who stayed late to fix problems, came in early to prevent them, and worked weekends when crisis hit. I'd been carrying this place on my back, and they just told me I wasn't qualified to officially do what I'd been doing all along. I pulled out my job description, the actual one, not the expanded version I'd been living by. Really read it for the first time in years. Dad. Yeah. Son, whatever you decide, I'm proud of you. You've always done right by people. Smart kid, smarter than his old man sometimes. That night, as I lay in bed listening to the rain against the windows, I made my decision. I was going to do exactly what they asked me to do. Nothing more, nothing less. Just my job as written, performed to the letter. Sometimes the best way to prove your worth isn't to argue about it. Sometimes you just have to step back and let people see what happens when you're not there to catch everything that falls. I showed up Monday morning at exactly 8 a.m., not 6:30 like usual, not early enough to check the overnight reports, handle the equipment issues, or brief the morning crew on potential problems. Just 8 a.m. sharp, like my job description specified. The parking lot felt different at that hour. Quieter. Most of the early shift was already deep into their routines. The routines I'd helped establish over 15 years of being there before everyone else. But not today. I walked past the main operations board where Tony Martinez, our shift supervisor, was staring at a stack of overnight incident reports with the kind of confusion you see when someone's trying to solve a puzzle with half the pieces missing. Luke, thank God you're here, he said, not looking up. We've got a mess from the night shift. Crane 7's hydraulics are acting up again. The manifest system crashed around midnight, and there's some kind of documentation error on the Pacific Express containers that came in at 0400. I checked my watch, then pulled out my job description, the actual one I'd printed and highlighted the night before. That's maintenance department for the hydraulics. Submit a work order. It handles system crashes and documentation errors go through the quality control office. Tony looked at me like I'd started speaking Chinese, but you always handle the hydraulics issue. You know that system better than maintenance does, not according to my official responsibilities. Luke, what's going on? You feeling okay? The truth was, I felt better than I had in months. Clearer. For 15 years, I'd been carrying the weight of 3 different departments because it was easier than watching things fall apart. But that weight had a cost. Nights when I came home exhausted. Weekends spent thinking about work problems. The constant stress of being the person everyone expected to have all the answers. I'm fine, Tony. Just following proper procedures. I headed to my desk and started on my actual assigned tasks. Container routing schedules for my designated zones. Safety compliance documentation for my specific areas of responsibility. Equipment inspection reports for the machinery under my direct supervision. It was strange how quiet my phone was. Usually by 8:30, I'd have fielded a dozen calls about problems that weren't technically mine, but that I'd solve anyway because it kept things moving. Today, Silence. Around 9:15, Jordan showed up for his first day as operations director. Fresh haircut, new hard hat that still had the stickers on it, and a leather portfolio that looked like it cost more than most of my tools. He made a beeline for my desk. "Lucas, good morning. Ready for an exciting day of operational improvements?" "Morning, Jordan. What can I help you with?" "Well, I wanted to start by reviewing our current efficiency metrics and identifying areas for immediate optimization." I gestured to my computer screen. "My efficiency reports are all up to date. Everything's in the system." "Great. And what about the overall operational status? Any issues from the overnight shift?" "You'd need to check with the night shift supervisor for that information. I wasn't here." Jordan's smile faltered just a bit. "But don't you usually, Preston mentioned you typically handle the transition briefings. That was something I did voluntarily. It's not part of my official duties." "Oh, okay. Well, who should I talk to about the hydraulics issue with Crane 7? Tony mentioned it's been ongoing. Maintenance department. Jimmy Rodriguez is the hydraulics specialist and the manifest system problems. IT department. Sarah Parker handles database issues, the documentation errors, quality control. That would be Mike Thompson's area." Jordan was scribbling notes frantically, his confidence evaporating with each answer. "This is more compartmentalized than I expected. Most operations are when you follow the organizational chart." What Jordan was discovering, what his MBA program apparently hadn't taught him, was the difference between how organizations work on paper and how they work in reality. On paper, every department had clear responsibilities and clean handoff procedures. In reality, most places only function because people like me spend their careers bridging the gaps between what departments are supposed to do and what actually needs to get done. By 10:30, the cracks were starting to show. I watched from my desk as Jordan bounced between departments trying to get answers about problems that required the kind of institutional knowledge you don't learn from org charts. Tony came by my desk around 11 looking frustrated. Luke Jordan asked me about the morning delay protocol. I told him it's not written down anywhere, that you just handle it based on weather and shipping schedules. Sounds like something the operations director should document then. "But you know that protocol better than anyone. You created it." "I did on my own time, based on my own experience. Never got asked to make it official policy." Tony stared at me for a long moment. "This is about the promotion, isn't it? This is about doing my job. Nothing more, nothing less." Around noon, the first real crisis hit. Rodriguez from the loading dock called in. One of the new guys had tried to move a container without following proper spotting procedures, and now we had a 20-ton container sitting at an angle on the dock blocking access to 3 other units that were supposed to ship out on the afternoon tide. My phone rang. It was Jordan. "Lucas, we have a situation on Dock 7. Can you come take a look? Is it in my designated zone?" What? "Dock 7 is managed by the West operations team. I handle East operations, but this is urgent. We need someone with experience. Then you should contact the West operations supervisor. That's Maria Santos. Maria's at lunch." We need someone now. I looked at my job description again. My lunch break starts in 10 minutes. You'll need to wait for Maria to return or handle it yourself. The silence on the phone stretched long enough that I wondered if he'd hung up. Finally. Fine. I'll figure it out. I went to lunch at exactly noon like my schedule said. The cafeteria had a view of the docks and I could see Jordan down there with a cluster of workers, all of them looking up at the tilted container like it was some kind of puzzle they couldn't solve. Rodriguez waved at me through the window. Good guy. Been here 8 years. Learned proper procedures the hard way. He knew what needed to be done. "Call in the heavy equipment. Use the stabilizer chains. Coordinate with the crane operator to lift and reset the container. Basic stuff. But it required someone with authority to make the call." I ate my sandwich and watched Jordan make phone calls. Probably trying to reach Preston or maybe calling Maria to see when she'd be back from lunch. What he should have been doing was taking charge, making the call, accepting responsibility. But that's the thing about people who've never been in actual leadership positions. They think leadership is about having the right answer, when really it's about making decisions with incomplete information and living with the consequences. By 12:30, they'd gotten the container situation sorted out. Maria had come back from lunch early and handled it in about 10 minutes. But those 30 minutes of delay would cascade through the afternoon shipping schedule, creating problems that someone would have to solve. That someone used to be me. Today, it would be whoever was officially responsible. When I got back from lunch, Jordan was waiting at my desk. His hard hat was crooked. His shirt was sweaty. And he looked like a man who was beginning to understand the difference between theory and practice. "Lucas, I need to ask you something." "Sure. How did you learn all this stuff? The protocols, the procedures, the relationships with all the different departments, 15 years of showing up early, staying late, and caring more about getting things done than about whose job it technically was." He nodded slowly. "Preston mentioned you'd be helping me transition into the role. I'm happy to answer questions during my scheduled consultation hours." "Consultation hours? Tuesdays and Thursdays, 2 to 4 p.m. You can book time through the administrative assistant." Jordan stared at me like I'd told him the port was moving to Mars. "But what if there's an emergency? Then you handle it. That's what directors do." That afternoon, I watched the port struggle with the kind of small problems that I'd been solving invisibly for years. Nothing catastrophic, just the daily friction that accumulates when systems don't quite fit together the way they should. Jordan spent most of his time on phone calls trying to coordinate responses to issues that could have been prevented with a little foresight and institutional knowledge. At 5 p.m. exactly, I shut down my computer, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the parking lot.